They laughed at us. Every species in that glowing Galactic Council hall had some version of laughter, and they all used it when Earth's fleet docked. Our ships looked like relics from a scrapyard, battered steel, mismatched armor plates, and engines that coughed smoke instead of humming clean plasma. Compared to the galaxy's sleek crafts, we looked like primitives who'd brought slingshots to a plasma cannon fight. Which was exactly what we wanted them to think. Commander Darius Holt stood on the cracked metal floor of the Havoc Warden, Earth's flagship. He was a tall, broad-shouldered brute with a cybernetic jaw from a close call during the Titan collapse and eyes like weathered steel, unreadable but always watching. His voice came over the comms with the calm of a man who had nothing left to lose. All ships maintain junkyard visuals. No comm chatter unless it's smoke and mirrors. We don't want them scared yet. His crew was a patchwork gang of survivors, former street racers from the Martian wastes, ex-Special Forces operatives who went rogue when Earth fell out of favor, and young hotshots trained in zero-gravity dogfighting simulations banned by the Council for being too dangerous. Every one of them had bled for the cause. Every one of them had a reason to burn the galaxy's arrogance to ash. Out in the void floated the Council's fleet, shiny, symmetrical, perfect. Varnak cruisers gleamed like jewels. Davy scout ships flitted like ghosts. The Zale mothership was a leviathan, more a floating palace than a ship, bloated with weaponry and luxury. The alien fleets lined up with surgical precision. Meanwhile, Earth's ships jittered in odd patterns, leaving engine trails and sputtering magnetic fields. To the aliens, we looked like a bad joke. Good, a voice oozing superiority cracked across the comms. Commander Holt, do you intend to proceed with these antiques? It was Council General Schur, a translucent blob in a gold-framed exosuit, known across the stars for his polite contempt of everything human. Holt responded without emotion. They'll do. A tiny probe launched from the Council vessel, trailing a bright data beacon. It was the flag, the object of the training exercise. Capture it, secure it, and return to base. It was a game meant to show cooperation, skill, and mutual respect. But humans weren't here to play games. Not anymore. Holt activated a switch on his console. Phase 1, he growled. Shake them off their thrones. One by one, Earth's ships disengaged their stabilizers. Instead of flying with clean, elegant lines, they spiraled, dipped, and snapped into erratic thrust patterns. These weren't breakdowns, they were human pilots pushing ships beyond Council limitations. Each movement looked like a system failure. The aliens dismissed it as a predictable malfunction, and that was their first mistake. Our chaos is a weapon, Holt murmured. Let them watch us fall apart right before we break them. A Davy commander barked across open comms. Earth vessels are unstable. This is dangerous. No reply. The Rogue Angel, a beat-up recon vessel that looked one ion storm away from exploding, blasted forward like a drunken missile and snatched the flag probe mid-spin. It was supposed to be impossible. Council AI scrambled to recalibrate. Alien ships twitched, waiting for new instructions. But the Rogue Angel had already pulled a hard roll, dipping behind the shield grid of the Varnak line. Then it did something worse. It broadcast live footage to every screen in orbit. Holt stood, arms crossed, watching the feed, Council members in secret meetings, files exposing their plot to bleed Earth dry after integration. He let the silence stretch before cutting in. You wanted proof of our capability, his voice dropped into a deadly calm. Here's your first taste. The Council scrambled. Ships began to lock weapons. Protocols shattered. But Earth wasn't finished. Holt leaned over his console, cracked his knuckles, and said, Phase 2, full engagement. The battle begins. Chaos bloomed across the stars the moment Darius Holt uttered, full engagement. Earth's so-called outdated fleet erupted into motion with terrifying precision. The illusion of disarray shattered like a cracked visor. The ships that had once sputtered and staggered suddenly moved like sharpened blades, slicing through formation lines and exploiting every crack in the Council's rigid strategy. "Switch to kill protocols," Holt ordered. "Target propulsion, not hulls. Let them feel what it's like to lose control." Dozens of Earth ships responded instantly, their systems kicking into full combat mode. From the outside, the transformation looked impossible. Engines that had appeared on the brink of failure surged with raw energy. Hulls unfolded, revealing hidden weapon bays and plasma turrets cobbled together in Earth's underground arsenals. The ships didn't rely on AI to fly, they relied on instinct, guts, the kind of instincts you sharpen in real war, not simulations. The Havoc Warden surged forward, leading the charge. Alien chatter flooded the comms, "They're attacking. This wasn't authorized. The humans are breaking treaty." Holt ignored them. The Council fleets were already buckling. Their combat formations, precise to the millimeter, couldn't adapt fast enough. They'd trained in sterile environments where everything went according to plan. But Earth didn't believe in plans. Earth believed in surviving. On the starboard side, a cluster of Zale interceptors tried to encircle the Rogue Angel, their sleek silver hulls gleaming. Holt watched as the Angel cut its thrusters mid-turn and let inertia whip the ship in a reverse spin, firing in all directions. It shredded the interceptors like paper. One exploded into a fiery bloom, fragments crashing into a Varnak cruiser, which started spinning out of control. "Reaper 9, loop under their engines," Holt instructed. "Blind them with flare bursts. Hit their sensors." A voice came back, young and fierce. "Roger that, Commander. Let's dance." The Reaper squadron, 6 rust bucket fighters barely held together by magnetic sealant, dove underneath the massive motherships. The aliens had dismissed them as broken-down scouts. What they didn't know was that Reaper pilots had practiced maneuvers banned by every galactic military code: suicide spins, collision dips, fake-outs so aggressive they overloaded enemy tracking systems. They didn't fly like soldiers, they flew like lunatics. And it worked. The Varnak dreadnought tried to launch its defensive drones a second too late. The Reapers released kinetic EMP bursts, non-lethal but designed to scramble anything digital. Holt smiled as the alien dreadnought stuttered in space like a drunk beast, sparks trailing from its hull. The Commander's resolve. Aboard the Havoc Warden, Commander Holt paced calmly despite the chaos unfolding around him. His hands moved over the manual interface, a rarity in this galaxy where most ships ran on automated guidance. But humans had learned not to trust computers. Computers couldn't feel fear. Computers couldn't hate. And right now, hate was a weapon. "They called us outdated," Holt muttered to himself, "but we remember what it means to fight for survival. Not conquest, not politics, just survival." "Commander," came a voice from his tactical officer, a tall woman named Sergeant Vega. "Council reinforcements inbound. A third wave. They're bringing in battle cruisers." "Good," Holt said. "Let them." On the display, the third wave warped into view, dozens of fresh ships with polished hulls and neatly aligned weaponry. Their formation was flawless. Holt didn't even flinch. "Activate fleet dust protocol." Vega raised an eyebrow. "You sure? That's all in. We've already jumped off the cliff, may as well fly." Fleet dust protocol was something only Earth could pull off, and only because no other civilization would dare try it. Every human ship began releasing fine clouds of reflective chaff particles, thousands of them, each the size of a grain of sand but capable of mimicking heat signatures and scrambling targeting sensors. Within seconds, the battlefield became a storm of confusion. Council targeting AI pinged thousands of false positives. Ships fired blindly, often at their own allies. A Davy corvette shot down one of its own scouts. A Zale ship accidentally launched missiles into its own mothership's flank. The battlefield was now a maelstrom of panic and misfire. From his command seat, Holt gripped the edge and leaned forward. "Initiate signal burn." Vega blinked. Commander, if we burn the signals now, we'll lose any chance of negotiations. There's no negotiation after this, Holt replied. Just history. With a single code input, every human ship overloaded its communications beacons with raw white noise, blinding the Council fleets to each other's positions, making it seem as though Earth's fleet was everywhere at once. From the outside, it looked like madness. But it was controlled chaos, Earth's greatest advantage. Darius had spent years studying the Council's weakness. Their ships were perfect, too perfect. They required stable conditions to function at peak efficiency. They'd never fought in uncertainty, never been cornered, never been desperate. But humans? We were born in desperation, raised on it. We excelled in it. Suddenly, an alert flashed across Holt's display. One of the Council's backup warships was heading straight toward the Havoc Warden. Fast. Too fast. Sir, incoming. They've locked on to us. Hold formation, Holt barked. His officers hesitated. The alien ship was a juggernaut, twice the size, twice the firepower. But Holt didn't budge. Let them come, he said. The alien ship drew closer, charging weapons. Holt waited. And waited. Then said, fire coil cannons. Aim for starboard stabilizers. Twin bursts of purple energy exploded from the Havoc Warden, striking the approaching Council vessel right as it crossed a small debris cloud, human-made wreckage from a destroyed cargo freighter. Except it wasn't destroyed. It had been loaded with magnetic mines disguised as junk. The mines detonated with surgical timing. The alien vessel twisted mid-air, its left engine flaring out, spiraling into a field of Earth's ships waiting like wolves in the dark. The humans pounced. You see that? Holt said, half to himself. That's the price of thinking we're nothing. And then his calm officer turned pale. Commander, we've got a transmission from the Council's emergency line. It's sure. Holt's smile faded. Put him on. The screen crackled and flared. Council General Schur's bulbous form appeared, this time stripped of his smugness. His voice had a tremble now. Holt, this isn't sanctioned war. This is rebellion. Treason. Wrong, Holt said, eyes burning. This is justice. You'll be exiled. Earth will be erased. We were already exiled, Holt interrupted. You just didn't use the word. You fed us lies, promised unity, then planned to gut our planet and enslave our people in the name of peace. Schur's voice was ice. You think this ends with your little victory today? Holt leaned forward until his face filled the screen. This isn't the end, he said. This is the beginning. Earth is done begging for a seat at your table. From now on, we build our own. And then he cut the transmission. A silence fell over the bridge. Outside, the Council fleets were scattering. Ships either fled or limped through emergency warp gates. They didn't expect to lose. They weren't used to pain. But humans had reminded them. The Havoc Warden floated through the wreckage of alien arrogance. Status, Holt asked. Reapers report 80% success. Rogue Angel is intact. Minimal casualties. Holt exhaled slowly. Then we hold the field. They didn't cheer. They didn't celebrate. They knew this was just round one. But for the first time in galactic history, Earth had spoken loud enough to be heard. And no one would forget it. The aftermath. The aftermath hung in the void like smoke over a battlefield. Wreckage drifted silently, burned out Drevi fighters, Varnak dreadnought fragments, and thousands of broken shards from the Council's pride. Against this floating graveyard stood Earth's ragtag fleet, scarred but breathing. They had held their line. They had done the impossible. But Commander Darius Holt wasn't celebrating. Not yet. Status report, he said, his voice gravel and steel. His comms officer, Lieutenant Rix, wiped blood from a cut on his temple and responded. We've got 13 ships down, 17 damaged beyond field repair. 5 are running hot with reactor leaks. Rogue Angel took a glancing hit but managed to stabilize. Casualty count at 47 confirmed. Holt clenched his jaw. Make it 37. Sir. He turned toward Rix. 10 of those bastards faked their deaths in the Simlag fields. I'd bet my last breath they're still kicking. Rix gave a faint smile. Understood. Across the command deck of the Havoc Warden, the tension had shifted. The adrenaline of battle was bleeding off, and in its place came the quiet understanding that they'd lit a fire the galaxy couldn't ignore. Earth had been a joke an hour ago. Now it was a problem. And problems get erased. Commander, said Sergeant Vega, walking up with a tablet in hand, we intercepted a high-frequency pulse from one of the Council's retreating ships. They sent out a silent distress call. Long range. Holt took the tablet and read the signal data. Coordinates match Sigma protocol, Vega added. Holt's eyes darkened. They're calling the Arbiters. The room went dead silent. Arbiters weren't soldiers, they were executioners. Enforcers sent by the Council when diplomacy failed and annihilation was preferred over conversation. Each one piloted a vessel the size of a small moon. A single Arbiter ship could flatten continents. Their entire purpose was to ensure no race, no system, defied the balance of power the Council held sacred. And Earth had just shattered that balance. They'll be here in hours, Vega said. Maybe less. Holt nodded slowly. Then we don't run. Sir. We send a message. He turned to the communications console and leaned in close to the mic. His voice was cold, clear, and deliberate. This is Commander Darius Holt of the Terran Free Fleet. As of now, Earth recognizes no galactic authority that feeds on lies and calls it law. You came to our system expecting surrender. You found a people who've been betrayed, starved, and forgotten. And still we stand. He paused, letting that sink in before continuing. If you send Arbiters, know this, they won't find a fight. They'll find a war. Then he cut the line and sat back. He didn't care who heard. The message wasn't for the Council, it was for every other backwater species crushed under their rule, every world told to kneel or vanish. Behind him, the navigation officer looked uneasy. Sir, what if they do come? What if it's not just one Arbiter ship? Holt looked out the viewing screen at the blackness of space. Then we show them Earth was just the first to say no. The Arbiter arrives. 12 hours later, the signal hit. An energy ripple swept through the far edge of the system, distorting gravity and pulling wreckage into spirals. Stars flickered. Warning klaxons lit up across every Earth ship. The Arbiter had arrived. It didn't jump in with a flash of light. It bent its way into space like a knife through skin, forming from nothing, a jagged vessel of obsidian metal shaped like a warped blade, for kilometers long and glowing at the seams with red liquid plasma. The Havoc Warden scanners screamed as the reading climbed off the scale. Confirmed Arbiter signature, Rix whispered. Designation, Omega Black. Commanded by Entity Code ZAL-9. Holt stood slowly, his fingers tightening around the edge of the console. Bring all ships to Formation Delta 2. I want every last working gun aimed at that thing. The fleet shuffled into a tight defense grid, Earth's version of a last stand. There was no trickery now, no surprises, no clever distractions. Just a wall of broken steel and desperate pilots willing to die before they bowed. A voice came through the comms. It wasn't sound, it was a presence injected straight into their minds. You have defied Council law. Your actions warrant extermination. Holt responded not with defiance but something worse, calm. I'm not here to make excuses. I'm here to tell you, if you fire that thing, your name will become legend for being the first Arbiter to fail. Silence. Then the Arbiter opened its side hangars. A wave of light shimmered, it was preparing to fire. But Holt had been ready. Reapers, initiate Project Blindside. From the underbellies of Earth's smallest fighters, a payload of condensed electromagnetic mines launched. These weren't meant to destroy, they were meant to infect. The moment they latched onto the Arbiter's outer hull, they detonated in microbursts. Thousands of small viral fragments spread into the ship's systems. Earth's most dangerous gift, organic code. It was human-made malware, written with instinct and rage, designed to hunt down and rewrite alien programming. The Arbiter stuttered. Systems blinked. For the first time in recorded history, an Arbiter hesitated. And Holt moved. All ships, fire. The void lit up like a sun was being born. Plasma bolts, kinetic rounds, and concentrated railgun bursts smashed into the Arbiter's underbelly. The Arbiter retaliated, swiping with a beam that incinerated 2 Earth vessels in an instant. But Earth didn't retreat. Keep pushing. Holt roared. Every second we hold is a message they can't delete. The Havoc Warden was hit twice. Alarms screamed and the lights dimmed. Sparks flew across the command deck. Vega shouted, shields are down. Hull breach in Sector 5. Holt slammed a fist into the panel. Seal off Sector 5. Redirect power from life support if you have to. We end this here. Outside, something began to change. The viral code Earth had injected was spreading faster than expected. The Arbiter's weapon system started malfunctioning. One cannon backfired. Another overloaded and exploded in a chain reaction across its right flank. A moment of weakness. Now. Holt barked. Fire the Thanatos cannon. The weapon had been Earth's last-ditch experiment, a magnetic rail spear made from neutron star fragments. One shot only. Unstable. Possibly suicidal. But it worked. The cannon charged, glowing white-hot. Then it launched a single spear of death that tore through space and impaled the Arbiter mid-hull. A ripple of energy burst out like a shockwave. Alien alloys cracked. Systems buckled. The Arbiter reeled. And then, impossibly, it turned and retreated. The creature inside, Zal-9, realized what the Council hadn't: Earth was no longer prey. It was proof. Proof that a planet with no resources, no allies, and outdated ships could still bring down a god. When the Arbiter disappeared into the folds of space, the silence it left behind was deafening. On the bridge of the Havoc Warden, nobody moved. They just stared at the spot where death had been and where Earth had survived. Rick sat down slowly, exhaling like a man who'd been holding his breath for a week. We beat it. Vega shook her head in disbelief. We survived an Arbiter. But Holt didn't look relieved. He looked tired. Because he knew survival came at a price. Get a message out, he said quietly, to every colony, every fringe planet, anyone who's ever been stepped on by the Council. Tell them what we did here. He looked out the viewport, voice lowering to a whisper. Tell them Earth stood up and didn't fall. The Sovereign Chain. 3 days had passed since the Arbiter fled. The Havoc Warden floated quietly above the scorched rings of the Tau Sigma sector. The wreckage from the battle still drifted like a graveyard of forgotten glory. Human engineers moved across the hulls in exosuits, patching wounds and scavenging parts from destroyed Council crafts. There were no cheers, no parades. Only silence, sweat, and a growing sense of something heavy rising in the galaxy's throat. Because humanity had done what no one thought possible, they didn't just fight the Council, they survived. Commander Darius Holt stood in the war room with a data pad in hand, reading the third wave of encrypted responses they'd received from fringe worlds. Dozens of them, some barely clinging to civilization, had heard the broadcast Earth sent after the battle. The message was short but potent: we bled for this sky. You don't have to kneel anymore. The responses ranged from stunned silence to shaky pledges of support. A colony on Virex 5 dismantled their council observation outpost and raised Earth's flag, nothing more than black cloth marked with a white star. A mining world in the Riken Drift declared its independence. Ships bearing unknown call signs had begun slipping through human-patrolled space, offering aid, trade, or just a nod of silent respect. Still, not everyone was celebrating. Not yet. "Sir," Sergeant Vega said as she entered the room, visor in hand, "we just intercepted a transmission." "It's not from the Council." Holt looked up. "Then from who?" She tossed a hollow disc onto the console. A hologram flared to life, a dark figure in a long cloak, face obscured, but the voice unmistakable, low, calm, terrifying. "Commander Holt, we are the Sovereign Chain. You don't know us, but we know you. And we watched what you did to the Arbiter." Holt narrowed his eyes. He'd heard the name whispered in prison camps, in smuggler dives, ghost stories of a rogue alliance made up of exiled races, black market warlords, and soldiers the Council couldn't control. The Sovereign Chain wasn't a faction, it was a rumor with teeth. "We're not here to threaten you," the voice continued. "We're here to meet. 1 week. Outpost Nadir. Bring your strongest ship, or don't bother showing up at all." The message ended. Rix, who had been quietly listening in the corner, muttered, "Outpost Nadir. That's in the dark spiral. No trade, no comms. Place is practically cursed." "Which makes it the perfect place for a revolution to be born," Holt replied. He stood straight, running a hand across his jaw. The metal jaw clicked softly as he thought. "Prep the Warden. We're going. Meeting the Chain." The journey to Outpost Nadir wasn't smooth. The dark spiral lived up to its name, asteroid fields thick enough to crush unwelcome guests, gravity wells that bent light the wrong way, and black market pirates who only backed off when they saw the battle scars along the Havoc Warden's hull. When they finally reached Nadir, it wasn't what Holt expected. The station was ancient, built by a race long extinct. It was all curved metal and flickering blue lights. Massive statues floated outside it, serpentine figures with too many arms, too many eyes. Silent watchers from a forgotten age. "Creepy," Rick said, tapping the viewing screen. "Looks like a tomb." "Maybe it is," Vega muttered. "A tomb for old empires. Or maybe a birthplace for a new one." They docked without resistance. Inside, the air was stale but breathable. Figures in mismatched armor lined the corridors, some humanoid, others insectoid, reptilian, even spectral. No one spoke. They only stared. Finally, they were led into a vast chamber lit by a pulsating red orb overhead. It wasn't artificial, it pulsed like a beating heart. At the center stood a man, if he could still be called that. Tall, bald, his face a roadmap of scars and old cybernetic grafts, with one eye replaced by a black lens that rotated independently. He wore no insignia, just a cloak made from stitched-together flags, every one a symbol of a world the Council had crushed. "Commander Darius Holt," the man said, his voice a low thunder. "I'm Kale, former general of the Varkon Uprising, leader of the Sovereign Chain." Holt didn't blink. "I heard the Varkon Uprising was wiped out." Kale smiled faintly. "That's what the Council tells people they fear. Wipe the truth with a lie, it's easier than explaining how we survived." He stepped forward. "We've been watching you. You didn't just beat the Arbiter, you exposed the myth. You proved the Council can bleed. What do you want from us?" Holt asked. Kale's smile vanished. "Not what we want, what you are. You've become the spark. Whether you like it or not, you're a symbol now. And symbols can't sit still. They either rise or die." He extended a data crystal. "This contains intel, Council weapon stockpiles, secret projects, even locations of slave colonies still operating under the radar. We've collected it for years, waiting for someone like you. Holt took the crystal, his fingers brushing the cold surface. It was heavy, not in weight, but in consequence. You want me to lead your rebellion? Cale shook his head. No. I want you to ignite it. Silence hung for a long moment. Finally, Holt said, I'll do it. But not for your cause, not for glory. I'll do it because I've buried too many friends under stars that didn't remember their names. And I'll make damn sure no more graves are dug for silence. Cale nodded once. Then welcome to the war behind the war. The data leak. Back aboard the Havoc Warden, as they left Outpost Nadir behind, the crew felt the shift in gravity, not from the ship, but from the moment. Something had changed. Rix leaned over Holt's shoulder as he reviewed the data crystal. Sir, this stuff, it's ugly. Secret bioweapons, test colonies, council prisons we didn't even know existed. If this leaks, the galaxy could explode. That's the point, Holt said. Vega looked up from her station. We just survived the council. Now we're going to start a war with them. Holt stared at the stars through the viewport, voice steady as ever. We already did. The war didn't start with a battle, it started with a leak. 3 days after leaving Outpost Nadir, Commander Darius Holt made the call that would light a fire across half the galaxy. He transmitted the data crystal, Cale's damning cache of secrets, into the Council's secure frequency bands. Not encrypted, not hidden. Broadcasted. Every planetary news feed, every trader ship, every fringe world still clinging to hope, they all received it. Raw footage of Council experiments on hybrid species. Recordings of slave labor camps on moons they declared uninhabitable. Audio of Council generals discussing the calculated extermination of non-cooperative colonies. And the image that stuck with everyone, a child, thin, shivering, chained in a metal pen. Her eyes were the same pale blue as the Council's official crest. Holt let it all loose. He didn't care about politics anymore. He cared about the truth. And making the ones who buried it bleed. Back on the Havoc Warden, the bridge was dead silent as the final broadcast played out on the main screen. Holt stood, hands clasped behind his back, jaw clenched. Rix broke the silence. We just took a match to a powder keg. No, Holt said, eyes locked on the screen. We lit a torch. The galaxy awakens. The response was immediate. The Varn Consortium declared martial law across 6 sectors. The Drevi High Command issued denials and deployed suppression fleets. The Zale Syndicate blacklisted all Earth ships, calling them galactic terrorists. And yet, on the ground, across colony worlds and deep space mining rings, something new stirred. Mutinies, not massive, not yet, but enough. A Drevi comms technician jammed her commanding officer's signal and opened a channel to Earth. A Zale cargo fleet refused to dock at Council-run spaceports and instead rerouted supplies to a rebel-controlled outpost. Even a Varnak war cruiser, silent for decades, sent one message to Earth's fleet: we were waiting. Holt wasn't surprised. The Council thought strength was about fleets and firepower. But Earth understood better. Strength was suffering. Strength was surviving with nothing and still standing up. And now the rest of the galaxy was learning it too. They met in a hollowed-out asteroid in neutral space, representatives from 16 species, outlaws, exiles, forgotten resistance leaders. They called it the Ash Summit. No rules, no formalities. Just smoke, scars, and anger. Holt sat at the center, flanked by Sergeant Vega and Rix. Across from him, Cale nodded once. The Varkon warlord now wore no armor, just scars and a patch over one eye that leaked red fluid from a shattered implant. We've got fire, Cale said, but fire without aim burns itself out. You showed us what Earth could do. Now we need to know what you're willing to lead. Holt didn't answer right away. He looked around the room, the Drevi insurgent with twitching fingers, the scarred Varnak elder whispering an ancient tongue, the insectoid twins from Kath space bonded by a common vendetta. And he realized this wasn't a meeting, it was a funeral for the old order. "I'm not interested in building an empire," Holt finally said. "Earth didn't claw its way here to become the new boot on someone's neck. But I'll tell you what I am willing to do." The room waited. "I'm willing to teach the council what fear feels like." Silence. Then Kale grinned. "That's all we needed to hear." Facility Vorta. Earth's next strike came not with guns but with a whisper. The Sovereign Chain coordinated with Holt to infiltrate a forgotten moon on the edge of Sector 19. The Council called it Facility Vorta. To the galaxy, it was a dead rock. But beneath its surface, it housed one of the Council's darkest projects, Project Yoke. Biological mind control. Neural dampeners. Brainstem parasites harvested from extinct species, repurposed to subdue rebellious populations without leaving a single scar. Holt took it personally. They hit the base with 3 ships, no more, the Havoc Warden, the Rogue Angel, and a stealth corvette named Ghost Wind, piloted by a Drevi defector named Saren who'd once tried to bomb Earth. Funny how war made allies out of enemies. They dropped under radar and landed in silence. Inside, Facility Vorta was cold steel and darker shadows. Hundreds of holding tanks filled with liquid and twitching bodies. The victims weren't dead, but they weren't alive either. "They've been erased," Vega said, voice low, staring at one human boy floating in the gel, eyes open but blank. "Like their minds were uninstalled," Holt said. "Like machines. No emotion, just steel." He turned to the crew. "No survivors on their side. Wipe it clean." What followed was precise, surgical, brutal. Rix hacked the internal systems and dumped every lab record into Earth's databanks. Vega led the demolition team. Holt himself pulled the first trigger. When they left, Facility Vorta didn't just explode, it folded in on itself, thanks to a payload made from Council tech they'd stolen months earlier. A poetic end, Holt thought. By the time the Council responded, they arrived to ash and silence. And once again, a message scrolled into the hull of the landing dock, scorched into the metal by heat laser: "We are not your cattle." The Hunter. The galaxy shifted again. Worlds that had stood neutral now began to murmur. A mining clan in the Yarn Belt overthrew their corporate governor and joined the rebellion. 3 low-tier council senators resigned and fled into deep space, sending encrypted notes of support to Holt's fleet. And somewhere deep in Zal territory, a council destroyer disappeared, only to return days later under a different flag, Earth's flag. The flag of the broken, the scarred, the enraged. But the council was not idle. They weren't going to lose their grip without clawing back. And this time, they didn't send an arbiter. They sent a hunter. Worse. Hunters were created for one reason: to eliminate threats before they become revolutions. Not ships, not officers, assassins. And this one, the galaxy whispered, wasn't entirely alive. Codenamed Null Directive, the hunter had once been human. Now it was something else. Holt learned about it the hard way. 3 days after the Facility Vorta strike, the Ghost Wind exploded mid-transmission. No warning, no survivors. Saren's last message: "He's here." Holt tightened security around the Havoc Warden, but he knew the truth. You didn't run from a hunter. You fought, or you died. And Darius Holt had no intention of dying quietly. That night, as he stood alone in his quarters, staring out at the cold black sea of stars, the weight of it all finally caught up. The dead faces. The near-suicidal odds. The pressure of being a symbol for people he'd never met. He whispered to the dark, "I didn't ask for any of this." But somewhere deep in his chest, beneath the exhaustion and the guilt, a fire still burned. Because despite everything, the scars, the pain, the past, Earth had won. And that meant the galaxy could too. But not unless they fought harder. So Holt turned, keyed into the main comms, and broadcast one simple message to the entire rebel fleet: prepare for retaliation. The Council just declared total war. Null directive. The Hunter struck at midnight. No alarms, no ships warping in. Just silence until the Havoc Warden's main reactor dropped into emergency power without a single error code. A chill ran through the decks. It wasn't just mechanical, it was presence. Like something ancient and wrong had stepped into the ship's lungs and started breathing. Commander Darius Holt was in the war room when the lights flickered. He didn't move at first. He just watched the shadows lengthen across the metal walls and listened to the silence that had replaced the hum of the engines. Then Sergeant Vega's voice crackled through the comms, tight and urgent. "Commander, we've lost gravity on decks 7 and 8. Comms went dead in engineering. And I think someone's walking the bridge corridors." "Seal all bulkheads," Holt replied. "Red protocol." The command sent the ship into full lockdown. Blast doors slammed shut. Defense turrets activated. Crew weapons powered up. But Holt knew it wouldn't be enough. This wasn't a boarding party. It was him. Null directive. The Hunter moved through the ship like smoke through cracks. Security cameras caught glimpses, a shadow that didn't match any light source, movement that defied physics. Then the cameras died, one by one, leaving only static and the sound of metal being carved like flesh. Holt grabbed his sidearm and stepped into the corridor. The temperature had dropped 20 degrees. His breath came out in visible puffs. Behind him, Vega and Rix flanked with pulse rifles, but their hands were shaking. Not from cold, from something deeper. Fear that went to the bone. "It's playing with us," Vega whispered. "Whatever this thing is, it's enjoying this." A voice drifted through the air, not from speakers, but from everywhere at once. Soft. Almost human. Almost. "Commander Holt. I've been looking forward to meeting you." Holt raised his weapon. "Then stop hiding and meet me." Laughter. Cold and sharp. "Oh, but I am meeting you. Right now. Can't you feel it? The way your heart races. The way your crew looks at the shadows differently. I'm already inside all of you." The lights went out completely. Emergency power kicked in, bathing everything in red. And there, at the end of the corridor, stood a figure. Tall, humanoid, but wrong. Its limbs were too long, its movements too fluid. Where a face should be was a smooth surface that reflected the emergency lights like black water. "I was human once," it said, voice now coming from its direction. "Like you. I had a name. A family. Dreams." It tilted its head, the movement unnaturally sharp. "The Council offered me purpose. Evolution. They were right about the purpose. Wrong about everything else." Holt fired. The plasma bolt passed through the figure like it was made of mist. It reformed instantly. "I'm not here to kill you quickly, Commander. That would be wasteful. I'm here to break you. To show your rebellion what happens to symbols when they shatter." It moved. Faster than thought. Holt felt claws rake across his arm, tearing through armor like paper. He spun, firing blindly, but hit nothing. Vega and Rix opened up with their rifles. The corridor filled with plasma fire and the smell of ozone. The Hunter danced between the bolts, untouchable. Then it was behind Rix. A sound like wet tearing. Rix screamed once and dropped. Not dead, worse. His eyes had gone blank, the same empty stare Holt had seen in the tanks at Facility Vorta. "One," the Hunter said pleasantly. "How many more before you break, Commander?" Rage flooded through Holt. Pure, clean, burning rage. He charged, swinging his weapon like a club. The Hunter caught his arm mid-swing. Its grip was ice and iron. "There it is," it whispered. The fire that makes you dangerous. Let me show you what fire becomes when it dies. Pain exploded through Holt's nervous system. Not physical, something deeper. Like every mistake he'd ever made, every friend he'd lost, every moment of doubt was being pulled to the surface and magnified. He saw Earth burning. His crew floating dead in space. The rebellion crushed under council boots. But in that darkness, he also saw something else. The faces of the people who'd sent him messages after the Arbiter battle. The colonies that had raised Earth's flag. The hope in Vega's eyes when she talked about building something new. No, Holt growled through gritted teeth. You want to break me? You'll have to do better than showing me my own fears. He drove his elbow back, connecting with something solid. The hunter's grip loosened for just a moment, enough. Holt spun and grabbed a thermal grenade from his belt. Not to kill the hunter. To kill the lights. The explosion plunged the corridor into absolute darkness. In the confusion, Holt grabbed Vega and hauled her toward the nearest emergency shaft. Behind them, the hunter's laughter echoed. Run, little commander. But remember, I'm patient. And I'm very, very good at hunting. They made it to the bridge, sealing every door behind them. The command crew looked up as they burst in, faces pale and questioning. Emergency warp, Holt ordered, blood running down his arm. Now. Sir, we haven't calculated. Now. The Havoc Warden jumped to hyperspace, leaving the hunter behind. For now. As the ship hurtled through the void, Holt slumped into his command chair. Vega knelt beside Rix, who stared at nothing with empty eyes. What was that thing? She asked. Holt was quiet for a long moment. Then, a message. The Council's way of telling us they're done playing games. He activated the fleet-wide comm, all ships, this is Commander Holt. We've been compromised. The Council has sent something new, a hunter. It got on my ship, into my crew's heads. Lieutenant Rix is. He looked at the empty-eyed officer. Changed. He paused, gathering himself. This is what we're fighting. Not just ships and soldiers, but things that take everything human about us and twist it into a weapon. They want us to be afraid. They want us to break. His voice hardened. But fear only works if you let it. And we don't let anything control us anymore. Not the Council, not their hunters, not even our own doubts. He cut the comm and stared out at the stars rushing past. Somewhere out there, the hunter was still hunting. But now Holt knew what they were really up against. The war had just gotten personal. And Darius Holt had never been better at personal wars.